All right, husband, what are you doing?
Oh, good God, dear Lord Jesus, I didn't know you were going to video this now. Alright, so first and foremost, the biggest part is that it seems like they did a great job of putting a bunch of lights in, but it's never enough. Jenny, is it ever enough? No, it's not. So first and foremost, I think the biggest pain was figuring out these lights right here. When you take a look at the inside of one of these lights, and you look up inside of here, all you see is this little spring right there. It was real annoying trying to figure out, well, what do I have to do with this thing to get it out? The reality is, I'm actually going to show you as I put it back in, you just have to muscle it. That's the cut and dry. You basically, yeah, lots of muscles. You just pull on this thing down and it comes out. But I will tell you this, that little spring thing you saw right there, either have your fingers away from it. I was afraid to let it slip and hit this and break the plastic, so I had my thumb right there close as I pulled it out to stop it from snapping. But if you just grab a hold of this and pull down, those things are going to go whoosh.
Kiss your fingers goodbye.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like being in one of those little teeny tiny mouse traps. It's not enough to break the finger, but it's enough to annoy you real good. So another item that I have that has made doing all the electrical work that I've been doing to this to get it exactly where we want it. Alright, so this was an Amazon buy. It's the Astro 9477. I'm not huge on tools that I've never heard of before, but I've done a ton of research to figure out exactly which one of these crimping tools I wanted to go with. And I will tell you that I have been pretty ecstatic with this. If you're not familiar with these jobbers, they are a ratchet and crimp style, and they also have the ability to have these teeth removed, and you can put a bunch of different sets of teeth inside of here depending on whether or not you're doing an insulated job or non-insulated job. So I will literally show you how nice this is to do. It is this simple. So I go ahead and I grab my my hot, they're utilizing a black for. I put my crimper. If you take a look at this, you'll see the teeth. There's one side that's a little bit more shallow than the other side. The part that's more shallow is going to go to the cuff. The part that is not is actually going to do the crimping.
What are you doing?
I am crimping a wire, baby Jenny. What are you doing?
What are you doing, Mommy?
I'm holding you while I'm taking a video for Daddy.
Alright, so once you've got that in place, you can go ahead and just crimp.
It happened.
And then it releases once it's crimped far enough. And the telltale is give this thing a good tug. You should not be able to pull your wires out of that. So I'll show you how that goes again real quick.
Without dropping the light.
Again, without dropping the light. You're going to go ahead and you're going to take your cuff. You're going to put your cuff inside of here on the shallow end. And the end that is going to compress further is going to be for the crimp portion. Put your wire in. Actually crush it inside of there. You can see what it looks like on both sides there. That'll release it. And tug test. Good to go. At that point, I will pull the cover off of this. You'll notice that I actually went and bought identical lights to what came with the Grand Design. Took a little bit of research.
Came with it.
You'll see I went and bought ones that have the actual motion sensor and a choice of manual on, off, or motion sensing. I'm a big fan of doing everything so that it looks like it was done by the factory. If you come over here, Mommy can sneak by. Of course, you have to excuse we're doing the work. You'll see this one right here was a factory USB port. I bought an additional one here. I put an additional one right here in the island. I put an additional one over there next to the theater seating. And that way, basically, when we have the Rolling Turd Oma with us, and Marion and myself, we can have all of our phones plugged in here. On our last trip with this, we found that that was pretty much one of the constant non-stop items. We were almost fighting for the USB plugs. Well, now I bought a bunch of the ones that are factory, just like the Grand Design came with. I put a second one in there so we can plug 4 devices, maybe a Fitbit or whatnot, right at the same time as that. We've got ones over by the theater seating. Somebody that's doing the dishes or cooking can plug inside of there. And extras that I'm putting into the bunkhouse and into the master bed. On the fun side of things, what do you guys think about putting one in the bathroom? Too much?
No more electronically challenged turd traveling.
No, not at all. All right, so once I've done that, I've put that in. You can see I had to fish the wire across over here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the electrical tape that I used to fish this across. And then at that point, once I've removed this electrical tape, I'll strip it up, and I will tie it into the factory light. And all right, so at this point, I don't know whether I should say that's for my mother, for my wife. We'll cut that.
No, we won't.
Yeah. So some of you may have been wondering, why didn't I just fish from here to here? That should have been adequate enough. This has got 12 volt power I could have tapped into. This runs off of our switch right here, and I want this to be motion sensitive. So that means I want it to have power all the time, which meant I wanted to tap into the other motion sensitive light that has nonstop power. And that way, this we can set to manual on if we really wanted to, off, which we found that we actually shut the one in the thoroughfare here out, the hallway, the dogs in the middle of the night. Sometimes they'll get up,
like a
and
disco.
from them turning around, it turns the lights on, and it can be annoying. So that being said, the next thing I'm going to do is real simple. I'm just going to go ahead and strip a little bit of the wire that I'm using as my feed. And it looks like Grand Design gets basically a really good deal on some fairly heavy duty gauge wire. I did the math on this and what type of power use these things have and what power feed I needed. I went up 1 gauge from whatever it was that I was going to need, and theirs is still thicker than that, which is, by the way, actually impressive. Very impressive Grand Design on that. Plenty of other things that they can do better, like anything else in the world. They're out to make a profit. I get that. One of the reasons we bought Grand Design is because we were under the impression that Grand Design spent a little bit more making the campers. Yeah, you definitely pay more. There is no question about it. But they were supposedly spending a little bit more money while making these campers. And my take on that was, oh, good. I'll spend a little bit more money on this, and I'll have myself in a position where I've got something that I don't have to deal with shortcomings. Well, that was not the case. So in using this, if you ever have to deal with this, and what I normally do is I just basically come out here, align this where I want it, and just get it started. If you'll notice, it actually stays right wherever it is that you start it, and nothing will drop out. Now I can actually come up here and grab the wires, feed the wires exactly how I want my wires done, and crimp it and not worry about dropping anything. So the hot wire is the wire that is currently still connected, so I'm not worried about touching or crossing wires at this point, which is no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and crimp this one right here. I bought butt style connectors, but in doing a lot of my other wiring, I have found that the butt style or terminal end connectors, like you see they were using right here, where it's not a straight pass right through. The one thing I did not like about the terminal pass end style ones is that they're hard getting in and out of the holes that they've drilled. And obviously you want as small of a hole as physically possible drilled into your ceiling, because you're trying not to let any heat passing by in this setup. It's really just, that's why I decided to go ahead and buy these straight on ones. So that's good and tight right now. So I'll cut this one next.
Sorry for the camera movements here, but we're working in a really tight space.
I was going to say,
with a toddler on my hip.
Mommy.
Yes.
I need to go pee.
Okay.
And there you have it, world.
Guess we're taking a break.
There you have it.
Do it.
All right, so up next is going to be one more connection. Again, as you can see, just get it started where you want it.
What are you doing?
What we're doing is we're wiring, baby Jenny-O. And yes, that's right, world. Daddy is going to continue running wire while Jenny pees in the potty directly beneath where Daddy is dealing with this power.
It's the same privacy anybody else does in this camper.
Yeah, that's about right. It's kind of like payback. So that being said, I am now touching a hot wire.
Done.
Are you done? That's good to hear.
Hold on, Jenny, just 1 second.
Yep, just a second, baby girl. So I'm touching a hot wire there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into the on position. Double check. Yep, still working. All happy hunky-dory. So you saw that's hot. Most people would say, hey, man, you really shouldn't work with hot wire. I should pull the fuse on this. I realize it. I'm not trying to be a smart ass or smart Alex, sorry, or degrade people that do that. Go for it. I'm just not afraid of 12 volt. And unfortunately, I don't have enough respect for 120 volt either. So that being said, I don't bother on 12 volt unless I'm getting near it with something else that's going to ground it out. Then I'm worried. But, okay, we're all done. So at this point, we should have a functional light here.
Yay.
And a functional light here.
Yay.
So now, what Grand Design failed to give us, but we gave ourselves, is going to be a light directly over the sink, so that when you're looking in the mirror, the light isn't behind you and unusable. That's it.
Especially for makeup, this is amazing for doing makeup in my hair.
Mom makeup. That's how Marian always looks so beautiful.
Brownie points earned.
Oh, definitely white. Okay, everybody in the world. Jenny's washing her hands. I actually got out of the way so she could do that. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and tuck all of the Grand Design wiring back up, and then my new power run back up inside of there. And up next, we're going to go ahead and shoot the mounting screws inside of here.
Power tool
I
time.
did it, Mommy.
Good job, baby.
Good job, baby Jenny. So let's talk about this. I think I'm actually going to turn this around. I'm going to put the motion sensor closer to this doorway so that the dogs can't trigger it without physically coming inside. What do you think about that?
Sounds good.
I think that's probably smarter.
Trust your judgment on that one.
I think that's a smarter way of going about this. So, anywho, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves right back in the factory hole. Again until it's a ridiculously by the way, on these things, especially if one of them's already popped, it's not always the easiest to get the other one off. You just kind of have to manhandle it a little bit, and it's kind of all there is to it. So I just was not satisfied with the research that I had done at that point on what I was going to replace it with. So at this point, let's talk about motion sensor. Further away from the door or closer to the door? At this point, I don't think we're going to have the doorway to help us because it's too far away. So further away.
Further away.
Okay.
Your feet are cold.
So further away it is. We're going to go ahead and get this lined up. Halfway right there.
Here.
That is the fit and finish and done. And now we're going to go into motion, and we can go into motion. And now you can see, lots of sawdust from doing what we just did, but you can see that you've got a much more usable mirror.
Yes.
It was, and we'll do it, no joke, without it, you'll see that this is what we usually walk into. And if you're trying to look at down here while you're shaving, or Marian is putting on her lipstick, So dead sexy. Putting on her lipstick, you find that you've got these shadows and whatnot. They're terrible, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to ask Marian to pop herself in there. A lot better lighting.
Yeah, it is a lot better.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's going to be a ton better lighting. I'll warn you of this if you decide to do the same thing that I just did. Ha ha! There's a stud that rides right across
Yes.
where you're trying to feed the power line. Thankfully, the stud, the roof truss, whatever it is, there's enough of a gap that you can actually get above it. Marian's thin arm was able to get inside of the hole and push. And we actually just used what is going to be part of our inverter AC line as a fish to do that, because I didn't bring a real fish with me on this trip. I didn't anticipate doing nearly as much wiring as we ended up doing. But some of that wiring that I'm talking about is we put some underbody lighting on.
And back to the bunkhouse, you can see them behind Kevin.
So what we call that is the Jenny Princess lighting.
Yes, Jenny's got her own room back there with the doggies. As you can see, Lilith is walking right back in.
Yeah. And what we can do real quick.
Here.
Here.
You have to walk here.
So we're going to go ahead and turn on Jenny's
Pick
Princess
up
lighting.
here.
And once we've connected to Jenny's Princess lighting, you can see that I can go,
But I
hey,
see it
that's
back.
pink. So we can change the lighting to whatever color we want Jenny's Princess lighting to be. That being said, this system was reasonably priced, and it's capable of being set to a timer, which we do have it set to a timer. You can also set it to follow mood music, which is crazy that it actually will pulse to music.
And
Disco. You can also just do fades. You can do strobes. You can do all that, all the normal stuff that you can do with those types of things. But the Princess has the control on her iPad also, so she can actually set those lights when she wants to play with them. And actually, believe it or not, my favorite part about this is the lighting above her bed right now is the excess piece from the lighting that I ran around the island. So I actually didn't have to buy an additional strip of light. Now, we bought plenty of strips of lights anyway, so it would have been no big deal, but that's the beauty of these things, is that they come with 2 soldered on ends on the end, and as long as you cut in the correct place where they tell you to cut, you actually now have 2 totally usable lights at different lengths, whatever you need.